Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. And I have already uploaded my file. Sorry for the technical glitch. As you know, I had to be made a presenter first, and then I could upload my file. And once I upload the file, it will be converted on big blue button. Okay. Anyway, so much for that. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you my talk on creativity and innovation at home. So. Again, good noon, everyone, and thank you so much for attending this session in spite of the time constraints. I know it's 12 to 1 p.m., and some of you would probably rather um, um, be at home and doing something else. Okay, so um, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the tips and some of the things that I know about creativity and innovation at home. So this is my outline, and this is how I'm going to be discussing with you today about my topic. So first is, what is creativity? So we're going to define what creativity is, and then I'm going to share with you some simple examples on how how it is to be creative from the houses, especially for most of us who are staying at home or who have whose routine has been altered because of COVID. Some of the students are now gearing up to, or probably on the already on the finishing stage of summer classes, and you are gearing up for the next school year, wherein we will also be doing online classes. So I'm going to be sharing with you how what some simple creativity examples, and then I will share with you some important skills which is going to be compared between 2015 and 2020, and then support doing laws in the Philippines that has to do with creativity and innovation. And then we're going to revisit again our definition of creativity and define what innovation is, some examples of innovation, and then the framework for creativity and innovation, some blacks and blockbusters wherein these are the reasons why sometimes you could not be creative or innovative. And then I will discuss shortly about adaptation innovation theory, and then I will give you a challenge before I end my presentation. So I hope you will stay with me for the next few minutes to listen to this talk. Okay, um, so basically, when we talk of creativity, okay, creativity means the ability to look at a problem and come up with a good solution to solve it. So a lot of us have been very creative during this particular time of COVID. Now, um, some of you have been looking for ways and means in order to be creative and in order to be productive in your own houses, and um, and so, what really is creativity? So, creativity is actually the result of transforming or combining existing ideas. So, of course, original thought will always be a component of any great creativity. It is what will make you stand out. But creativity is actually not the output of vacuum. So, creativity is a summary of many inputs. These inputs could be your experiences or learnings from the past. So, again, creativity implies creating new stuff by combining two or more existing ideas. So when you copy an idea, or when you transform an idea, or when you combine different ideas together, that is what you call creativity. Okay, so due to COVID-19, um, wherein we need to do a social distancing, and most of us are forced to work from home or take classes at home. So this is so sudden for most and can be challenging, especially if you want to guarantee productivity and especially if you have kids at home. So in the next few slides, I will share with you some strategy or what we can call creativity tips on how to survive being at home or how to be creative at home, either as a mom or as an employee at Silliman University or as a student who is trying to learn and who's trying to adapt to the new normal, which is staying at home and learning from home. So the first step is to find an ideal space to use as your working station. So this should be one with minimal distractions. If you don't have a spare room, you can use your bedroom, your kitchen, or a corner in your living room where there is minimum traffic. You don't want to be distracted all the time, right? Okay, so the next step is, or the next strategy is to keep the things you will need for your work at arm's reach. Your laptop, your headphones, your chargers, pens, pencils, papers, files, or any other item that you may require or that you may need as you work from home or learn from home. Ensure the working space is organized and clean to boost your moods and morale and to give you a feel that you are still in the office or you are already ready to learn. So sometimes it's difficult actually to shift because you are used to being at home, to just play or just to study, but never in that kind of scenario. So it's learning, it's a different learning situation for most of us. The third one is to maintain your regular routine. So while working or studying at home can have its positive side, such as there is no need to wake up as early, no traffic to beat, or no, you can work in your sleeping attire or move out of bed. You don't have to move out of your bed. However, this can also have a negative effect on your productivity and can kill your usual motivation. So the third step is for you to ensure that you don't change your regular routine. So you need to wake up at your usual time, take a shower, dress up, not necessarily dress up in your working clothes, but out of the clothes you used for sleeping. Eat your breakfast. If you don't eat breakfast, drink your coffee or whatever milk whatever routine you do in the morning. Just follow it so that there will be no difference between your previous routine and your current routine. The next one is, if your normal routine is commuting to school or office and socialize with other people along the way, it means that your mind is still hanging on to that. So before stepping to your work area or that area that you designated to be your learning space or your work area, work around the block or do a bit of an exercise to switch your mind to work mode. Because sometimes whenever you are at home, it's different to differentiate being at home, wherein you are so relaxed and you don't work, and being in a work mode. So that's the next step. The next tip is for you to ask for help from others. And while sitting alone may give you a sense of being on your own, just because you don't have your office mates with you or your seatmates with you like in a normal class, trying to find solutions on your own can delay more important work that needs to be done. So interact with others to get a feel that you are still part of a team or a class. So you can still talk to them privately. You could whenever you call them on Messenger or on Viber or whatever, Zoom, whatever platform you're using, you could still do some socializing or you could still ask them for help. The next one is take social breaks. Working or studying long hours without a break can affect your health negatively and reduce your productivity. Take a few breaks in between to stretch and socialize. Besides brainstorming for solutions, you can take advantage of the video calls for some socializing. Breaks may also be used to quickly catch up with housework, do a quick chat with the family members, or if you have kids, play with them as well. There will also be a need to communicate the break time well to the people you live with. That way, you don't if they need you, they can always wait for your break rather than distract you anytime. Because sometimes there is a very thin line between being a mom or being a daughter, being a son, or being a wife or a husband who is very accessible at home and And it will be difficult if they look at you differently now because you're also an employee or a student who is trying to learn or trying to work from the house. So they could actually distract you anytime. So you have to set your boundaries. You have to set your time schedule that, okay, between this time and this hour, they could ask you questions, they could interact with you because you are on a break. The next one is close for the day. So avoid the temptation to work beyond your usual work hours. When the usual time you finish work clocks or once your online classes is done, stop and step out of your workspace, no matter how small that workspace is. So there's a boundary between your workspace and your normal routine at home. So this is an important aspect in your work from home strategy or learn from home strategy, as it allows you time to focus on your family and other chores that needs your attention. So finding a work or a time for learning from home is going to work well, and it could be challenging. So see what works for you and what you need to do differently in the coming days. So what I just mentioned, however, should give you a good start in adjusting well to the new normal. Now, other things that you can do from home varies, and I could not possibly share with you everything. Say, for example, nowadays to be creative and to be innovative from home, there are a lot of ways. But although there are some restrictions, but you can still do something. For example, you can educate yourself from home. So you can join webinars. Most of the webinars nowadays are for free and are very accessible. If you have a good internet connection from the house, you can learn something from YouTube. You can learn how to cook. You can learn how um, to to do some stitching or embroidery, or you can do some gardening. You can find a lot of online sites to learn, or you can learn a new language. You can also use this time to help others with technology and social media. So, for instance, if they have problems with using Zoom or using Soul online at Silliman University, if they have problems socializing or whatever social media account that they have, you could always volunteer to help. You could also, as I said earlier, you could also try something new. So you can pick up a new hobby. You could start learning how to knit. Or you could do some cleaning. So you can clean the house, you can reorganize, you can recycle the stuff. You could finally find something that you have been looking for that you have did never had the time to do for the past few months because you were in your office or in school. Now, so going back to well, citing other examples, some parents have actually became very creative at home, such as this modified version of getting kids to drink water regularly. So I'm sure that parents here who are or a parent who is currently with us for this particular session could relate to this. So you can motivate your kids to do this and give rewards like what this mother on the next slide did. So basically on this particular post, they have 3 kids at home and they're trying to monitor how many glasses of water did you drink. And it's a gamified type of reward system. So if you're able to reach, say, 8 glasses of water in that particular day, then you get something. Now, next is a parent who went to the next level. So if that one is only for water, this one is a snack system. So this was posted by another working mom with a bored kid at home. So each task at home has a corresponding play money reward, which can be used to buy snacks, TV time, and or Xbox time. So this certainly teaches the kid the value of money, and I think it's a very good strategy to keep the kids occupied. So what happens here is you have a store, you have the play money, and based on what particular task that kid does at home, it corresponds to that amount of money, which can be used to buy the things from the store or time to play on the Xbox or time to watch TV. So there are many other creative things you can do from home, either as a parent or as a daughter or a son or as an employee. So and I'm not going to pretend here that I could share everything because definitely there's a lot. No, so later on in the question and answer portion, I want to know what you're doing to be creative as a faculty, a staff, or a student of Silliman University, and then we could share ideas. We can learn from each other. So on this particular slide, I'm sharing the list of skills needed to find a good job in 2015 versus the skills that are necessary in 2020. So these skills were actually um, I got this from online even before the COVID pandemic. So take note that the critical thinking and creativity went up to to slots 2 and 3 in 2020 compared to being in slots 4 and 10 in 2015. So this only shows that being creative or being a critical thinker is actually very important. So coincidentally, in the Philippines, there are two new laws that have been approved in 2019, and these are the Philippine Innovation Act, which defines innovation as the creation of new ideas that results in the development of new or improved products, processes, or services, which are then spread or transferred across the market. So since my talk is about creativity and innovation, then we're going to be able to relate to this particular definition in the next few slides. Now, another law that has been approved in the Philippines is the Innovative Startup Act. So this makes me want to go back to the definition of creativity, which we discussed earlier, plus the simpler definition of innovation. So earlier we defined creativity um, We define creativity as the ability to look at a problem and come up with a good solution to solve it. Now, I have just added the definition of innovation, which means connecting ideas in a beautiful new way and make them commercially successful. So once we actually understand the meaning of creativity and innovation, then we could realize that this has nothing to do with the subject matter, jobs, or what we study. So, for instance, there are creative inventors and creative artists, but there are also creative cleaners and highly creative teachers. So, being creative is not because is not something that you are limited with because you do not have the educational background to do it. So creativity and innovation were actually traditionally adjacent yet separate research fields. So the first was mostly dealt with by psychologists, I'm talking about creativity, and the second mainly by economists. So the words creativity and innovation can be heard used in the media and in everyday conversation to refer to both a product of human creativity and to the processes involved in the development of a product. So sometimes you can be creative, but you don't have to push it towards the commercialization process. No, but most of us are also being very innovative in the way we handle the things nowadays, especially with the COVID pandemic. And I will give you examples of that later on. So when you say creative solutions, they're actually more than ideas. They must work in the real world. So it has three attributes. First is it has to be new. So it has to be new, otherwise it will not be creative. It should be useful. It solves the problem, otherwise it will not be a solution. It should also be feasible, given the messy real world constraints like money and time. So let me give you examples of some innovations or some creativity that were done recently. So if you know, I know you can relate to this because of the constraints or problems brought about by COVID, businesses have become more creative and have been pushed to be more innovative. So for instance, while most teachers and schools have for a long time denied that online teaching and learning is an alternative to learning, now everyone is embracing it. So they are forced to welcome this innovation. So in the next slides, I will share with you what we have done locally in Dumaguete and in the Philippines, and what changes we are forced to do to provide solutions to the current problem, innovate, and provide a sense of normalcy in our routines. So the first example here is card spree. Have you heard of card spree? So card spree is actually an application that will allow you to order online and have them delivered to you. So this is already available, no, online. You can download this one and install this on your computers or your mobile phones. So their partners locally here in Dumaguete are Kangs, Digitech, among others, including personal collection. Now, another innovative or creative way that, to respond to this pandemic is the Maisuki. So if you have seen online, Hypermart and Lee Plaza are also made available Maisuki, which they open up even for those in Sikihor. So it allows the consumers, since we could not go out, or our movements are limited during the first phase of the distribution of the quarantine pass. Not everyone, or not every family members even had, not every family even had one. So most of the people had to resort to online shopping. So Maisuki is the response of Lee Plaza and Hypermart to that. Now, next is another creativity and innovativeness that are done locally is Tiangue Negros Oriental, or Tiangue Negor. So they also have an application on that you could install, but you could also find them on Facebook. So they also have a page. So they have partners locally, and just like card spray, you could also order online. And I'm talking here about separate apps. Now, on top of this, you have, of course, your market, Facebook Market, wherein you could also find other vendors, whether for vegetables or fruits or whatever items, you could order them online as well. The next one is the fish tiangue. So actually, fish tiangue is very close to me because this is one of the projects in our office during the pandemic. So and we are already actually extending our help to other fishermen in Negros Oriental so that they could still continue earning something, no? And so fish tiangue is like bridging the gap between the fishermen and the consumers, so that the consumers will get a much cheaper or fairer price. They could order to them. So all we do is to equip them with knowledge on how to sell online, and then post their pictures and their prices, and customers can order directly to the fishermen. Next is your other options. So, for example, I actually I hid the name of this particular dance class. But at the moment, because of COVID, you could actually start doing online music classes, fitness consultancy sessions, cooking, bakery classes, dietitian consultancy, or business consultancy, photography classes, etc. So this particular uh, ballet teacher actually is also someone from Dumaguete City. So since of course they have kids, and they have young kids to high school and college students who are trying to learn how to dance, supposedly on a um, face-to-face classes. Nowadays, because of COVID, they could not go out, so they resorted to online dance classes. So this is actually a very innovative and creative way of continuing that particular service and passion. No, so that's also a very good idea. Another example is, of course, the one that was done by the chemistry department at Silliman University. So we created our own alcohol to help the shortage of alcohol supply, not only in Dumaguete actually, but in the entire Philippines or even globally. So we came up with our own alcohol from the chemistry department, and I'd like to commend the chemistry department for that. Next one are the local organizations here in Dumaguete who also tried to make masks, aerosol box, and ventilator. So what I'm saying here is that there is an ongoing problem, shortage of masks, shortage of ventilators, shortage of aerosol boxes in the hospitals. And in order to respond to this particular problem, we became creative and we became innovative. So we used whatever resources we have, and then use the bayanihan um, passion within us to work together, even without a lot of compensation or without any compensation at all. Another example is the test kit, no, which was actually done also in the Philippines by a particular school, and sensor-enabled hand spray. So in order to limit the contacts, holding the bottle as you put alcohol or your hand spray on yourself, you can just use a sensor-enabled hand spray. So this is an example of also of being innovative and creative. Another one is, of course, the full body disinfection chamber, which was actually manufactured in the Philippines. So if you buy this one outside of the Philippines, it will cost a lot. But since we did it on our own, so we have very cheap production of our own full body disinfection chamber and some immunity boosters. So this is actually a drink, no? So that well supposedly would help boost your immune system against COVID. Okay, so that's again another creative idea or innovative idea. Next one is, of course, innovative face mask. So a lot of us know that some of our um, physically challenged friends would need the lips in order to understand other people. So that this particular mask is very innovative because it will allow them to see the lips and read even though they could not hear. So this is a very good innovative or creative idea as well. Then of course you have the rooftop or vertical farming. So people will not go out as often for food. So you can plant your own at your rooftop or whatever small space you have. So this is called urban farming. Then of course museums, because museums are supposed to be closed just like zoos. You now have virtual museums and you have your online zoo. So these are some innovative things that has never been done before by the zoo or by the museum because they were all for earning money whenever you go inside. But now they want to they want to educate people, they want to spread the news about what they're doing, and as much as possible, they want to continue the operations. And of course, Facebook. So Facebook has answered some of the problems that are existing at the moment. So we know probably some of you have heard about the issue on security on Zoom. So they came up with Facebook Messenger, wherein video calls can be for free up to 50 people. And then now, actually, just got this, I've just read this one this morning. You have the Facebook shop. So Facebook Shop would allow you to also sell, and it has a lot of features as well, including artificial intelligence. So this is something that we could look forward to, especially during the time of COVID, wherein a lot of businesses are closed or are really trying to survive because of the limited movements the consumers are allowed to do. So software is evolving, the zoos are evolving, everyone, no? So it's being creative. So I'd like to go back to this definition. So creative solutions are more than just ideas. It is new. Okay, it's new because of our issues with COVID now. It is useful because, well, we could not go out, no? And it is feasible. So given the constraints that we have, like money, time, and even space, no, these are answers to all these problems. So actually, the design thinking process is a framework for creativity and innovation, which allows us to break down complex problems based on various stages. So we have discovery, interpretation, ideation, experimentation, and evolution. So for example, this actually translates to, I have a challenge. So how do I approach it? I learned something. How do I improve it? No? I have an opportunity. What do I create? I have an idea. How do I build it? And I tried something. How do I evolve it? So actually, this is the process of finding an idea and then actually implementing it, and then innovating that particular idea to respond to different challenges. So if you have this particular framework, you will definitely be able to solve problems and create very creative solutions. So these are conceptual blocks. So conceptual blocks are mental obstacles that constrain the way the problem is defined and limit the number of alternative solutions thought to be relevant. So here are four possible blocks and blockbusters. So what keeps us from becoming creative? So sometimes we make wrong assumptions. So perhaps we need to check our assumptions if they are still applicable in today's time. Sometimes we follow the rules so much and we only keep we don't look at other possibilities anymore. So sometimes breaking the rules can make you creative. Now, over reliance on logic. So if you use your imagination and your intuition, then you could probably be more creative. And most people are afraid of failing. No, they have fear of failure. So if you become more of a risk taker rather than being very safe, then you can be more creative. So it is said, or it is believed, that most people with formal education and experience in a job are unable to solve problems in creative ways. They are so comfortable with their normal way of things that they do not want to embrace change. This means new technology, new ways, shortcuts, new routes, etc. They do not want to look at that because they are so con- convinced that whatever they're doing at the moment already works and there's no other way to do it. So they become less creative, or they're not able to solve problems in more creative ways. The reason behind this is because formal education often produces the right answers, analytical rules, or thing boundaries. Experiences in your job teaches proper ways of doing things, specialized knowledge, and rigid expectation of appropriate action. So sometimes we call these people old school or by the book. No, so if these two factors actually makes the individuals lose the ability to experiment, to improvise, and to take mental detours. So, for example, given in the previous slide, I showed you some examples of um, ventilators, for example. So, if you know that there are no ventilators available in most of the hospitals in the country, and you do not want to, you always want to follow the book that it's not possible, that it is very risky, and it could be deadly, then you will not be able to create something new. So you will not be creative, you will not be innovative. You will always be afraid of doing things. So again, conceptual blocks are mental obstacles that constrain the way the problem is defined and limit the number of alternative solutions thought to be relevant. So there are three types of conceptual blocks. First is your constancy. So constancy means that it could either be vertical thinking or one thinking language. So when you say vertical thinking, this means defining problem in only one way without considering alternative views. So the opposite of vertical thinking is actually lateral thinking. So this is, on the other hand, it generates alternative ways of viewing a problem and produce multiple definitions. Now, one thinking language, which is another factor under constancy, it means that you only use one language. Okay, so words to define and assess the problem, and you disregard other languages such as nonverbal or symbolic language such as mathematics, your sensory imagery or your smell, your feelings and your emotions, your fear, your happiness, and your visual imagery, like such as mental pictures. Another reason for, or another type of conceptual block, is what you call compression. So distinguishing figure from ground means that you are not filtering out irrelevant information or finding needed information. This is the inability to separate the important from the unimportant and to appropriately compress problems. And there's also an artificial constraints. Artificial constraints means defining the boundary of a problem too narrowly. So people assume that some problem definitions or alternative solutions are off limits. So they just ignore them. So this is artificial constraints because actually they do not exist. The third one is complacency. So you have non-inquisitiveness. That means to say you don't want to ask questions. Like for example, you're a student who goes to school without asking your questions or without even debating to anyone, or without even, you're only always absorbing everything. You are non-inquisitive. So sometimes the inability to solve problems results from a reticence to ask questions, to observe or to obtain information or to search for data. And non-thinking means that you are not inclined to do any mental work. You don't want to be stressed. So these three factors are conceptual blocks. So if you have this kind of attitude, then definitely you will not be creative. You will not be innovative. So there are three components of creativity. One is your expertise. So you have the expertise, so you are creative. You have the motivation. So not all motivation are actually created equal. So for example, you have that inner passion to solve the problem at hand. So it leads to solutions far more creative than doing external rewards such as money. And then creative thinking skills, which determines your flexibility and your imaginatively and your imagination as to how the problem should be approached. So actually, according to Michael Curtin, there are actually two types of thinkers. So you can either be adaptive or innovative when you solve problems. So all of us solve problems differently. No? So for example, if you have an issue, so you have a cat and the cat litter is very smelly. So the adaptive type of thinker looks for a solution inside the box. So what are the possible ideas that the adaptive thinker would come up with? So they could come up with a better cat litter. So probably they would look at sand chemical properties. Think of increasing the size of the sand particles in order to remove the smell or add some refreshing scent. Now, on the other hand, the innovative creatives thinks outside the box. So in order to remove the smell on the cat litter, they could come up with cat diapers. So they think outside of the box. So cat diapers, of course, will eliminate that odor because you will have to dispose of that diaper um, right away. And then, or they could come up with schools, cat schools for good manners, or probably instead of having a cat, they could come up with a robocat. So those are the differences between adaptive and innovative creatives. There are also what you call divergent or convergent thinkers. So the divergent thinkers see lots of ideas when they see a problem, and they are more effective in trying to solve problems. So you give them a problem, they could give you a lot of ideas or what could probably um, be the solution to that particular problem. On the other hand, you have the convergent thinkers. They see all the details and are better at narrowing down the options. So they weigh down the pros and the cons. So a convergent thinker can then look at each option in detail and then pick the best one. So if I ask you, for instance, there are two types of groups. No, say for example, group A will come from the same background and they would be at ease with themselves. They enjoy the process. So, say for example, you have group A are all divergent thinkers or all convergent thinkers. Now, here's this other group that are similar, but they are joined by a stranger. So, you have a divergent thinker, for example, and then you have one convergent thinker, one stranger. They wouldn't like that idea, but it will make them become more careful of drawing fast conclusions. Now, in this way, if you're going to put different people together in a group, the result will be a more intelligent problem solving process because they will be more careful in coming up with the solution. Okay, because they will be debating among themselves. So actually, it's good if you have different types of people in a group. So a lot of us need to understand that by experience and knowledge, we are able to increase the dots in our brains. And this allows us to provide more solutions to problems. Now, you need to remember that experience allows us to learn and is the best teacher. Diba? They said that experience is your best teacher because when you fail, you actually learn something. And so next time you try to do it, you don't do it anymore. Okay, so the problem with us is we don't want to fail. No, so that's why I'm going to give you a tip. In order to be creative, you have to dress for failure. So this will allow you to have a new perspective of things. You will have the ability to play different roles. Now, also another tip is you have to practice saying yes. A lot of people would rather shy away. They do not want to accept opportunities by saying yes. So, Mark Schwinn, who is the founder of Minute Videos, say that you have to keep on saying yes. So, whenever, for example, you say, "Can we go to that new restaurant because they have a new menu?" Now, even though you are not sure, you say, "Okay, let's try it." Now, rather than if you say no immediately, then you will not be able to have that particular experience. And so you open your doors by saying yes. Now, so actually, um, you also need to understand that innovation is never a single event. So a lot of the innovations that you see in our generation are actually results of a long process. So like for example, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928, but it was not like a one night thing, like the following day or the following month immediately it became famous. It was not until 15 years later in 1943 that the miracle drug came into widespread use. So this is also true with other innovations. It's never a single event. So do not expect a miracle overnight. Another thing is that innovation is a combination. So sometimes you have to recognize that you need to work with people across different domains, meaning to say, um, like for example, you could be a doctor in genetics, for example, but you need other people to also input some solutions or some ideas into that particular innovative project so that it will work better. So one of the things that I want you to remember is that the electric light didn't come from continuous improvement of candles. And another thing is that innovation isn't about what you know, but what you don't know. So do not be afraid to try something new. Do not be afraid to experience something that you have not experienced before. So at the moment, there are a lot of windows of opportunity wherein you can be creative and innovative. And this is something that I want to also challenge you with. So at the moment, you have a lot of free time, especially the students here who are with us this afternoon. You have a lot of free time at home. You're barely, especially because classes, summer classes have just finished, or some of you did not enroll during the summer term. You have a lot of time in your hands to think of some innovative or creative ideas that you could share to the world and make this make Philippines a better world, you know, with all the problems that we have now and with all the financial and political problems we have. Now you have to take that opportunity that we have the new laws that I have mentioned earlier, and that we have a lot of issues. You have a lot of time in your hands. I'm sure that while you're taking a bath, while you're brushing your teeth, while you're washing the dishes or cooking, you can think of solutions to the current problems that we have. So it could be about anything. It may not be related to COVID. It could be something innovative that you thought of while you are gardening. Say for example, you say, what if I have this pot eh, that would generate fertilizer after on a weekly basis instead of me doing it. So it's something innovative as well. So I want you to look at this opportunity, this particular restrictions that you are experiencing at the moment as an opportunity for you to discover something new and to share something with the world. So all of us have, actually, as I mentioned earlier, problems can be solved by ourselves in many different ways, and each of us maybe solving problems differently. So, like for example, when you are asked to connect the dots without lifting the pencil on this example, each of us may have a different way of solving it. No, so one of those pictures that you see in your screen right now may be your solution, but it may not be the solution of another friend or another colleague. So each of us have your own way of solving problems. Now, more so if you are given a challenge like this, so you're going to connect the dots using a minimum straight lines without lifting the pencil. So given that particular problem or new instruction, you may have other innovative ways of solving the problem, because in the first place, you are not given any imaginary frame or boundary. So you're only asked not to lift the pencil, but you are not told you cannot go out, or you cannot be out of the box. So you can create solutions like this or like this, or probably create this if you have a pencil that has a big lid. So you might be able to solve the solutions differently, or you can come up with these solutions too. No, so you have 9 dots, for instance. It was never said that you could not realign the dots. You can align the dots like this in one straight line, and you are still able to meet the instruction. Or you can roll the paper, or you can cut the paper like this one by one and just put 1 dot. So you still solve the problem. So as I said, all of us have your own solutions. Now, so my challenge is that not only as an employee, a parent, or a student, but as a citizen of the country, what problems do you see and how do you solve them? Now, if you have solutions to these problems, if you are being creative and you are being innovative, and you have anything in your mind, I'm inviting you to actually send it to us. So we could probably help you. So we could help you connect to possible investors in on your creative thinking or your innovative idea. You can send us an email at tbi@su.edu.ph. You may also send us a message on our Facebook page, which is SU Synergy, or you can join us on Soul. We have the SUTBI virtual office as well. You can send us your thoughts and your ideas. We could help connect you to possible investors. We could mentor you. We could provide you with the space. We could provide the seed money. So that's my invitation. And so that would end my talk. I hope that you're still awake. It's 1:10 in the afternoon, and I believe I was only given 40 minutes. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you learned something. Thank you.
All right. So, hi, Mom. Thank you, Mom Janice, for sharing with
Thank
us your
you.
expertise on how to be creative and innovative at home, especially in this time of pandemic. And also, thank you for our viewers who are still with us today. And if you have questions, please, you can type it on our chat box. All
Okay,
right. So we
actually,
have
there's one question. Yes, you can read it for me, Elmar.
okay. We have question here from Sir Gadswill. In your opinion, would you agree that having a conducive work environment at home is the most important factor when working at home?
Well, I wouldn't say it's the most important factor, but it actually contributes to having that sense of being at work or being in school. No, rather than, you just sit on your bed and there's a lot of distractions, you would end up not being productive. So if you could come up, if you have a space that is intended for work so that you could separate um, being at home and being a mom or being a daughter from being an employee or a student, then that would be best. So it would contribute, but not the only factor in coming up with a conducive work or school environment.
Right, thank you, ma'am. We have here from our university librarian, is being innovative automatically makes one creative?
Yes, because you cannot be innovative if you are not creative in the first place.
Right, thank you, ma'am. We also have here from Ma'am Rilin Tirambolo. Do you think pandemic will increase the dropout rates of students even when the advent of new technology in learning?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of factors. If you talk about new technology in learning, here we're talking about the flexible or hybrid way of learning, wherein you don't face your teacher on a daily basis, or you only meet virtually. And well, one of the things that are hampering us here in the Philippines is, of course, our internet connection. So even if, for example, even if you have the capacity to pay for your internet connection, um, well, it's still a problem in most areas in the Philippines. So schools and teachers have to find a more creative and innovative way of continuing the learning process in spite of this particular issue. So first and foremost, well, if you consider it, not all of us have the capacity to buy our own devices. Second, not all of us have the capacity to pay for the internet connection, even though the internet connection is probably available. Third is, even if you have the capacity to pay for your internet connection, or even if you have a laptop like me, for instance, where I live, which is still part of Dumaguete City, there is no other option but an online internet internet connection. So in other words, whenever there's a typhoon or there's rain or whenever a lot of users are using, you cannot rely on the internet connection. So it's possible that if teachers or schools will not be as innovative in providing our students, given this particular pandemic, an alternative way of learning and teaching, then probably the dropouts will increase because there are a lot of factors. Most of the parents are also not earning as much as, or not earning at all, no, because of the pandemic. So yeah, it could possibly increase the dropout rates of students. Now, according to some parents, they would rather, even though they have the capacity to pay and even though they even have the internet connection, some parents, because of the provision of the schools, that it may be hybrid, like meaning to say it could be both face to face and online. Some parents are so cautious that they would not send their children to school just to keep them safe. So it could. There are a lot of factors really in concluding that the dropout rates will increase because of the pandemic. Thank you, Relene, for that question.
All right, so I think there is no more question. So
I think Ma'am
before,
Dinoy is still typing.
Ma'am Dinoy, wait, Ma'am Dinoy. Ah, yeah, she's typing. We'll wait for her.
Yeah, so we're really in our a very challenging time. But again, if you can be creative and innovative, then you could actually survive this pandemic.
Yes. So here is the question of Ma'am Dinoy. What is the standard internet connection speed that a student will have in order to sustain the online learning?
Well, actually, it depends on the platform. So there are some platforms that would require at least 2 Mbps. Some platforms are more demanding than that, so they would actually need more internet speed. So it really depends on the kind of learning or the kind of medium that you use and an online teacher. Now, you could also be innovative or creative. So, for example, instead of having an online session like this, wherein everyone has to be present at the same time, you could also post your videos and let the students decide when they are available to view it. So, yeah. So going back to that question, it depends on the platform that you're using as a teacher or the kind of learning strategy that you want to give to your students, whether it has to be live like this, or you could just post whatever reading material or videos or content you have, and then let your students access it at a different time. Yeah, so but of course, yeah, that still remains to be an issue in the Philippines. The internet connection is really very challenging. In fact, that's the reason why I'm in the office at the moment, because I'm not sure
Yeah.
if my internet connection at home could be that reliable to give me a very good connection while talking to you guys today.
All right. So thank you, Ma'am Janice. Before we end this e-talk, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our university librarian, Dr. Myra Villanueva. Hi, Ma'am. Good afternoon.
Hi,
Good
ma'am. Thank
afternoon.
you for having me
Yes.
here.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ma'am John. Today we know various tips on how to become creative and innovative while we are home, and I hope that this talk has had inspired us to become creative and innovative to share solution to the problems we are all facing now. This virtual library actually is also a product of being we have an innovative and creative librarians here at Siliman. From the usual physical library, we initiate this virtual library to continue our service to our students and faculty. Expect more web-based services from us in the coming months. Okay, once again, thank you, Ma'am Janice,
Thank
for
you
sharing
also.
with us your ideas on how we can be innovative and creative during this crisis. Thank you also to our online audience, our librarians, and the Dr. Dave for the support. I want to invite our students to share with us your talent online and
I
be
know.
part of our variety issue
Sure.
issue on May 27, 2020 at same time 12 to 1 here in our virtual library. Thank you so much. Ma'am John, thank you.
Thank you. And if I again reiterate, I'm inviting everyone also, if you have any innovative idea, if you have some idea that you want to pursue towards commercialization, send us an email or send us a message on any of the technology that we have. That I have mentioned earlier, we could definitely help you. We could provide you the space. We could do the mentoring. We could connect you to potential investors, or we could also provide you with the funds that Dr. Mariano Lau is providing to the students at Silliman University on farming and food technology. We could give you initially 100,000, or we could
Wow.
find other investors for you. That could be like, say, whatever you need, no, 500,000 to millions, just to pursue that idea that you have in your mind. So I challenge everyone to make use of the time of the pandemic at the moment, and come up with something that would really create an impact to the Philippines.
Right, thank you, Ma'am. MMG. Um, right. So thank you, Ma'am Janice, for
Thank
sharing you
you.
with us here today. Please allow us to give you this certificate of recognition. May I read the citation? Silliman University Library, in partnership with College of Computer Studies, presents this certificate of recognition to Assistant Professor Janice Antoniette Forster for sharing her expertise as resource speaker to the e-talk, a webinar delivered at SU Virtual Library at Seoul, entitled Innovation and Creativity at Home, given this 20th day of May 2020 in Dumaguete City, Negros Oriental. Signed, Dr. Myra E. Villanueva, University Librarian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me
And
here.
thanks everyone for your time, and keep safe and have a great day.